You test the new checkout page against your old one, watch the overall conversion climb, and happily ship the winner. Then, weeks later, you split that same test by where the traffic came from, and your stomach drops because the new page actually converted worse on your email visitors, and worse on your ad visitors too. Worse in every single group, yet somehow better in total. That is not a spreadsheet error, and it is not you losing your mind. It is a genuine statistical twist called Simpsons paradox. And today I want to talk about how a trend can flip completely the moment you stop staring at the total and start looking at the parts. I am not a statistician. I am someone who runs small businesses and got ambushed by exactly this more than once, trusting a headline number that quietly reversed itself the instant I broke it down. I have shipped the wrong page, killed the better performing ad, and praised the worst month, all because I read one pulled figure and never asked what was hiding underneath it. Simpsons paradox is the plain habit I now use to distrust any total until I have at least tried to break it apart by the groups that actually matter. So let me say plainly what Simpsons paradox is. It is when a pattern that shows up inside every separate group of your data reverses or simply vanishes the moment you pull those groups into one combined number. The new page wins in the total but loses in each segment. A treatment helps every kind of patient yet looks useless overall. The direction of the story depends entirely on whether you look at the whole or the parts, and the two are allowed to point flatly opposite ways. This feels like magic the first time you meet it, but it is not. It is just arithmetic with something hidden inside. Two things have to be true at once for it to happen. There must be a lurking third variable that genuinely affects your outcome, and your groups have to be lopsided in how much of that variable each one carries. When one group is stacked with easy cases and the other with hard ones, the pooled average quietly weights them unevenly, and that uneven weighting is exactly what lets the total disagree with every piece beneath it. Let me make it concrete, and please treat every figure here as illustration, not a benchmark to copy. Imagine your old checkout page had been grinding away for months, shown mostly to cold traffic from paid ads. Then you launched a new page during a big email push, so almost everyone who ever saw it was one of your warm, ready-to-buy subscribers. Same two pages, but each one was quietly tested in front of a completely different crowd. And that difference is where the trap is laid. Now the numbers. On your email visitors, the old page converted 22 in every 100 and the new page only 20, so the old page won there. On your ad visitors, the old page converted 3 in 100 and the new page just 2, so the old page won there as well. The old page was better with warm buyers and better with cold ones. And yet, because the new page was shown almost entirely to that high converting email crowd, its overall conversion looked dramatically higher, and you cheerfully crowned the loser. The villain in that story is the third variable you were not watching. The traffic source, or really the buying intent sitting behind it. It drives the outcome hard, because warm email visitors convert far better than cold ad clicks no matter which page they happen to land on. And it was split unevenly across your two pages. Any time a variable both moves the needle and sits lopsided across the groups you are comparing, it can bend your totals until they lie to you. Statisticians call that variable a confounder, and it is the engine humming underneath the whole paradox. Here's the intuition I want you to keep. A combined rate is really a weighted average of the separate group rates, and the weights are simply how many observations landed in each group. When the weights match across the things you are comparing, the total behaves itself. When the weights are skewed, one group can dominate the pooled figure so completely that it drowns out the truth living quietly in the parts. The total is not counting anything wrong, it is being dragged around by a mix you forgot to look at. This is not some made-up curiosity for textbooks. It shows up in serious data all the time. The most famous example is a university admission study from decades ago, where the school overall appeared to admit men at a higher rate than women, which understandably looked alarming. But when researchers broke it down department by department, most departments actually favored women slightly. The catch was that women had applied in far greater numbers to the most competitive departments, the ones that admitted very few of anybody. The total told one story. The parts told the opposite, and the parts were the honest ones. The same reversal turns up in medicine, where a treatment can look worse overall and yet prove better for both the mild cases and the severe cases taken separately, simply because it was given more often to the sicker patients who fare worse no matter what you do. I will not put invented figures on any of these because the point genuinely does not need them. The shape is the whole lesson. A clean and repeatable pattern where pulling the groups quietly flips the very conclusion you were about to act on. Now bring it home. Because your dashboards aggregate almost everything by default. That single headline conversion rate, that one overall churn number, that every star rating across all your products, every one of them is a pooled figure that could be hiding or even inverting a story living at the segment level. The moment you make a decision straight off a total, you are trusting that no confounder is quietly steering it. And Simpsons' paradox is the reason that trust is sometimes very badly misplaced. So how do you catch it before it costs you something? The habit is easy to say. Always look at your important comparisons, both pooled and split, and then reconcile the two. Before you trust any total, break it down by the obvious suspects: the traffic source, the device, the customer type, the cohort, the time period, and see whether the segment story still agrees with the headline. When the split flatly disagrees with the whole, treat that as a flashing warning light, not a rounding quirk you can wave away. Your captainist is far less work than it sounds, and the plain pivot table does almost all of it for you. Put the outcome you care about down one side, break it out by your suspected confounder along the other, and then read each group's rate sitting right next to the pooled rate at the very bottom. If that bottom line points one way, while every row above it points the other, you have caught a live reversal and you simply cannot trust the total. I now run this one split on any comparison I am about to spend real money or real effort on, whether it is choosing between two ad channels, judging a pricing change, or deciding which of two pages actually deserves to win. Because 10 quiet minutes of pivoting has rescued me from more than one confident and genuinely expensive mistake. But here is the part most people get exactly wrong, and it really matters. The segments are not automatically the truth, and the total automatically the lie. Which view you should trust depends on whether the variable you split by is a genuine cause of the outcome, a real confounder, or just an irrelevant slice. When the split is on something that truly drives the result and sits unevenly across your groups, the segments hold the honest answer. But when you slice on pure noise, you can just as easily manufacture a fake reversal out of nothing at all. And you genuinely can torture your data this way, so be careful with it. Chop your numbers into ever smaller buckets, and random wobble alone will eventually hand you a reversal in some tiny corner, a subgroup of 11 people where the pattern happens to flip. That is not insight. That is noise wearing a costume. So segment on the 2 or 3 variables you have a real reason to believe matter, the ones tied to how your customers actually behave, and resist the urge to keep dicing until the data finally tells you the thing you were hoping to hear. Even when you get no full reversal, the milder cousin of this effect will visit you constantly, and it is worth naming plainly. It is called mix shift. Your overall average order value can fall in a month when not a single product changed its price, simply because your cheaper products made up a bigger share of the sales this time. The total moved, but no segment actually did, only the blend between them. So whenever a headline number surprises you, ask the two-part question: did the groups themselves change, or did only the mix between them change? If all of this feels related to things I have talked about before, that is because it is. The lurking third variable here is the very same confounder that makes correlations so easy to mistake for causations. And the way a lopsided total misrepresents its own parts is a close relative of how an average quietly stops being typical the moment your data is skewed. These are really one lesson wearing different clothes, that a single summarizing number can be perfectly accurate and still point you in precisely the wrong direction. Every one of these explainers lives in writing at dataresearchanalysiscollections.com, the whole metric library in plain English, with Simpsons paradox worked through on a real split test rather than a tidy textbook table. so you can watch the total and the segments fight and decide which one actually deserves to win. I keep it honest there for the same reason I keep it honest here. No promises about your results and no pretending that one clever split settles a messy business by itself. Read it slowly with your own dashboard open beside you and start breaking your totals apart and hold the whole idea in proportion. Simpsons paradox does not tell you which view is correct. It only warns you that the total and the parts can disagree and that aggregation on its own can quietly mislead. It will not name your confounder for you. It will not prove which split is the real cause, and it certainly will not make your decision. All it really buys you is the reflex to stop trusting a headline number until you have honestly tried to break it, which is worth far more than a confident total that reversed on you the whole time. So to recap, Simpsons paradox is when a trend inside every group flips or fades the moment you pull them, driven by a hidden third variable that sits unevenly across the things you are comparing. Catch it by reading your comparisons, both pooled and split. Trust the segments only when the split is a genuine cause. And beware slicing so thin that plain noise fakes a reversal for you. Next time I want to talk about the confounding variable itself, that hidden third factor, how to spot the ones lurking in your own data, and what to actually do once you have found one. I will see you in the next one.